The Day of the Dead, or the Festival of the Dead, is not confined to America or Britain, but it is a universal tradition. It has been passed down from generation to generation for many, many centuries. So far, so many centuries, in fact, that we don't really even know its origin. However, there was the researchers of a gentleman back in the 19th century who first stumbled upon the fascinating connections between many of the ancient festivals of the dead or feasts of the ancestors that were observed by ancient peoples all over the world. The Halloween that we've inherited is well summarized by this 19th century commentary. On Halloween, when the festival of the dead commenced, the spirits of the dead wander more than at any other time of the year. This is a night when devils, witches, and other mischief-making beings are all abroad on their baleful midnight errands. So we have this idea that there's one night a year that the souls of the departed can come back to the earth and interact with the living. What we're going to find out, though, is that ancient peoples did in fact see something very real flying in the sky at midnight on Halloween. That is what we're really interested in here, is what is this hitherto unknown factor? Here's a partial list of ancient cultures that observe the Festival of the Dead in either late October or early November. As you go down the list, you can see there's the Judeo-Christian, the Celtic Druidical, the Anglo-Saxons, Dutch and Swedes, in Egypt, Assyria, Persia, Peru, Polynesia, Mexico, India, the Mayans, the Australians, and the Japanese. The thing to be aware of is the fact that all of these nations and all of these peoples all had a festival of the dead. And it was all, in each case, celebrated either at the very end of October or the beginning of November. And in many cases, it all went 3 days, just as in our Judeo-Christian tradition of All Hallows Eve, All Saints, and All Souls Day. This is what we're interested in. Was there a conceivable mark provided by nature that all the nations of the ancient world could have observed? In the most ancient calendar in India, the year commenced in the month of November, which bears the name Kartugui. That is, the Pleiades, a constellation which must, by its rising or setting at that time, once have regulated the primitive year. In fact, the Pleiades forms what is usually given to be the shoulder of the bull, right? This is Taurus, the bull. Now, each year, Pleiades rises in the summer after sunset and rises and gets higher in the sky until late October, early November. If you go outside at midnight and face due south, you will see the Pleiades crossing the local meridian. That is the line that reaches from the zenith to the point due south. That imaginary line will be the culmination of the grand arch, the royal arch, the celestial arch that is the plane of the ecliptic with all the zodiacal signs, and you will see the bull will be at the keystone of that arch. And at midnight, the shoulder of the bull, marked by the Pleiades, will occupy that position in the sky. Now, ancient peoples all over the world would have seen this same astronomical phenomena at the same time, whether or not they were in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, that the Pleiades would mark the local meridian at midnight. So that means that at roughly sunset, the Pleiades would be rising in the east. So the Pleiades were quite frequently used to mark the ancient calendar, to mark the beginning of the new year. So now we have this idea that all over the ancient world, ancient peoples could see the Pleiades culminating, is the term, at midnight, at the highest peak of that ecliptic arch, crossing the local meridian. Now, that in itself could be significant, simply because it provides a very accurate way of calibrating the ancient calendar. And remember that Halloween is about the time when witches and devils and souls of the departed monsters come back forward from whatever land or whatever realm they have been banished to, and they come back to this world. It's the time when the gateway between this world and the netherworld opens up. And now we're going to turn to Mithraism from the other side of the world, right? And here we have, going back 2,500 years ago, we have these effigies of these torchbearers. And again, we notice always Mithras, the god Mithras, is flanked by these two torchbearers. And one will hold a torch upwards towards the heavens, the other will hold the torch pointed downwards toward the earth. It means exactly the same thing to the ancient Mithraists as it did to the Mayans. And this is what fueled fears of the end of the world. And it is this idea of the end of the world that's at the basis or at the core of Halloween. The deluge occurred very close to early November. And so even in the Judeo-Christian tradition, we find this story about the end of the world falling very close to this date that's universally associated with the end of the world, but we now find is also associated with an astronomical phenomena, the planet crossing the Taurid meteor stream. But all of these ideas are wrapped up and contained and preserved within this celebration of Halloween. There's a lot going on here in this symbolism. I'll only point out to you the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars that typically represent the ancient Pleiades, showing the connection between Mithras and the Pleiades. We see the two torchbearers. In this case, we see that both torchbearers are pointing their torches down towards the earth. We see that in some of the depictions of comets, they actually have the appearance of a broom passing over the land, igniting fires, triggering great storms, destructions, sweeping away the old. Here we see Comet West, which would be an impressive broom star. We can see how ancient peoples would look in the sky, see comets like this, and be looking for earthly images to help them understand what they were looking at. And so they came up with swords and sickles and long-haired ladies and brooms, amongst other things. And here we see a very witch-like cometary apparition destroying the earth. This is from the 19th century. The long hair on fire, the witch-like countenance of the comet. Interestingly, the word apparition, which is used to describe the appearance of a comet, is also the word we use to describe the appearance of a ghostly, otherworldly, supernatural entity. That's no coincidence that that same word is used for both of these entities. And now you can begin, I hope, to begin to see that there is hidden symbolism in the witch flying on her broom through the night sky. And so now we understand that there's another level of meaning to this celebration of Halloween when the little children are going out and dressing up like ghosts and witches and goblins and zombies and so on, is that what we're actually doing is commemorating those who died in the great world destructions that have preceded the rise of our own civilization. Hello folks, Randall Carlson here. On October 30th, I will be live streaming a presentation on the ancient Festival of the Dead, the precursor to our modern Halloween. In modern times, Halloween is seen as a relatively harmless celebration, primarily aimed at children, and having no particular significance other than an excuse to dress up in silly and scary costumes and have a party. But the roots of this annual tradition go much deeper than most people realize. In fact, our modern custom of Halloween is descended from an ancient tradition that was observed by our ancestors all over the world, and preserved memories of a momentous event that has implanted itself deeply in the human psyche, where it still resides to this day. In this unique live stream event, the mighty cosmic secret that lies concealed in the primordial ritual of the Festival of the Dead will be revealed, in the hope that a reconnection with our deep and forgotten past will enhance the probabilities of successfully navigating the future. Thank you, and I hope I see you there.